we're all created with an eternal awareness within us. And when you start to work with the creation that God has given us, you have to take upon yourself the fact that you are working with something that has been established for all generations and not just for yourself. We are called to be stewards, and Jesus has told us that several times about being a good steward, being a good tenant, being a good caretaker for the earth. I started farming, well, I grew up on a farm and have known or participated in farming since I was just a young boy. And we had jobs to do, and that was our way of life. We lived the farm. The farm supplied food and fiber for us, and we were expected to work to provide. My dad sold out of farming in 1965. As the auction culminated, I watched people drive these pieces of machinery out the driveway, and I thought, prior to this, I thought, well, one day it'll be my turn. But as the equipment left the driveway and the farm, I found that I had no possibility of entering the farm community at that time. Had the opportunity to buy my first farm. I farmed it when I was in high school, but then the old man that became a close friend of mine, his name was Fortner McDonald. He passed away. His 3 sons, who were retired, wanted me to buy the farm. I had nothing. I had a car at the time, and that was it. So I agreed. I bought the farm, and they worked with me. They really, I think Fort wanted me to have it, and they did all they could for me to make that happen. And so I borrowed equipment. I would borrow equipment and work the equipment off and baling hay, digging ditches. It didn't matter what the job was, manual labor. And I was able to start farming that way. I had a desire in my heart to do this, and I would do whatever it took. But if you have to work it and pay for it by yourself by the sweat of your brow, I think you have a deeper appreciation. It becomes a part of you. If you got a fire in your gut and you really have a desire in your heart for it, then you just got to love farming to do that. To build character is to see when something is wrong, is to speak up and to voice an opinion or become active in combating that particular situation. So we look at farming and we can say, well, the land is here, the animals are here, and we can take an excessive advantage for our own benefit. But then what's that do for our next generation? As we look to that next generation, they're going to have to survive, and they're going to have to provide for that their families as well. And if we totally deplete the ground, if we what we call mine the ground now, or take everything from it that we possibly can, and then just turn it over to the next generation, we really haven't done justice, and we haven't done what God would intend us to do for those farms. We should care for animals. We're supposed to be stewards for them. The Bible tells us if we mistreat our animals, then we'll be held accountable. We use only vaccines as we need them. We do not use growth promotants or implants because I think these can be carried on past the use of that live animal. Possibly, I don't know, but it leaves doubt in my mind that these things could be still a residue in the meat. and the milk. So I tend not to use those, just as, like I said before, being a good steward and caretaker. We have used in the past and have experimented with the use of half rates of chemicals. We try to use sparingly chemicals, spot spray in fields, not spray the entire field, but spray the problem areas. This reduces chemicals. Now, we're in production agriculture, and production agriculture means you're trying to produce enough commodity to feed people, and there are starving people around the world. So if we fail to use pesticides, and I know organic is a good idea. I have no qualms about that. But the use of pesticides and herbicides do help to ensure a higher yield that does feed people. As far as erosion control, trying to use cover crops to control winter erosion, wind erosion, and these cover crops also help to build and restore nutrients to the soil or free up the nutrients that are there. Organic farming does have its drawbacks. I believe it could be a healthier choice, and without using chemicals and things, it's bound to be. You got to ask yourself, where are the trade-off at? With organic agriculture, the drawback would be the amount of production. If I'm a Christian at all, and I care about people that I don't even know, that are go to bed hungry, they wake up hungry, they live the day hungry, a food source that would sustain them, even though it has some drawbacks, is a plus, just simply for the fact that it has large quantities and it's able to feed more. There's no doubt that we live in a time that things are being pushed and rushed for the bottom line on profitability, but we also have to be concerned from a Christian viewpoint that people do need nourishment, and they die daily for lack of nutrition. If we place ourselves in their shoes, would we be that choosy? I've experienced a lot of things through my farming experience, and a lot of those things have been character builders. I've experienced life and death, and the birth of a new animal, and just went through a situation where the death of a cow that had a calf in her that we couldn't get out, and just to see that cow struggle, and with the other twin that was alive laying by her side, she passed away. It's things like that a person that is really attached to the soil, really attached to the farming lifestyle, that tugs at your heart, because that old cow gave me all she had, and raised a lot of hogs at one time, and a disease would come into a barn and just wipe out hundreds of pigs. And I've seen crop failure from drought. I've watched plants wither during the day, only to gain a little strength at night. Come harvest time, they all but fail. Sometimes they have failed. We've seen frost, like an early frost, a late frost, that damage fruit crops. We're not in control. There's so many elements that we have no control of, and we have to rely upon the Creator, because He's the one that's put all this in place and to start with. And we are here for a time, but there's things that we don't understand totally, and we just have to work with the knowledge that we do have. There's a lot of things that we still have a good handle on, but it's all part of the process of being stewards of what God's given us. And when we have that approach that we are not in control of all things, I think then we have to submit ourselves to the hand of God. He is the supplier, and if we don't rely upon that, we're fooling ourselves.